Hello magical ones, welcome to the Fairy Stitch vlog. I'm Fairy, and this is a vlog that we normally talk about, a variety of different things, but usually it's fairies and fairyology, fairycraft magic, and there may be some cats, there may be baking, there may be, animal welfare, books, poetry, definitely art, definitely knitting. So you never know what you're going to get or when you're going to get it. So we're going to sprinkle a little fairy dust and see what we can conjure up today. So today we're going to continue talking about the fairycraft magic practice and different ways that you can incorporate different art forms into your practice and working with the fairies. So, yes, my little fairy is making comments in the background. So one way that I use artwork into my fairycraft magic, into the practice, is using some art forms that I really enjoy these days, and that is fiber arts. Now, fiber arts can be a bunch of different things, but we're going to talk about the three main ones that I can think of that I use. And so there's sewing, there is knitting, and there's embroidery. And all of those, of course, incorporate fiber of some sort. You've got the yarn, and you've got fabric, you've got thread, you've got, all the little notions that go with it, and in order to make a project. So, to begin with, we are going to start with the magical workings of sewing. So today that's what we're going to start off with, is the sewing section. And when you're using sewing, and I use fabric in my artwork these days a lot. I do a lot of multimedia work now. So when I do that, I often like to incorporate fabric swatches. But, there'll be yarn, and I might do some embroidery sections and all the other. And I incorporate all of that into the artwork. So we are going to explore a little more information about sewing fabric into a project which you can use in your practice. Other projects that I use sewing in, which is part of the practice, is I make quilts. Now, any of you quilt makers, you can totally relate. So this one is one of my smaller little table quilts. Let's show it here. So this one is my little apple quilt. And of course, apples are magical all on their own. And we have discussed that on this channel. So, but the idea is to actually do the sewing part. So, sewing magic is definitely one that I use to promote and use my fairycraft magic practice, like spell bags, quilts, pouches, medicine and herb bags have been used for centuries, since ancient times. And they're mentioned in stories, like when Odysseus from Homer's Odyssey carried the winds in the magical bag. Wiccans use spell bags, which is often shown in the TV show like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, when Willow was often used a spell bag. Sorcerers, as in the movie Willow, use them, while others use them for herb gathering for their practice. So sewing magic lets you make complex spell work through the use of color, different fabrics, other materials, symbols, making visualizations, making a tangible, actual item that you can use. Now you could sew a symbol onto another item, whether it be clothing you're going to wear during doing your spell work, or it could be adding a sigil to a bag. Quilting, obviously, you're using a bunch of different fabrics and you're putting ribbons or you're putting borders on. You might be, doing little patterns. You could create all these magical patterns into it using the quilting machine. I mean, on the embroidery machine, there's a lot of things you can do. But sewing an item of clothing can be a ritual, especially if the item is going to be worn for a magical purpose. A cape, a collar necklace, a wristband or gloves or a hat. You can repeat a chant as you sew, which infuses the fabric with your spell or your intention. You can also bless the little spool of thread that you're going to use before using it, as well as your tools, to also add to the magic or the intention on the garment, so that really infuses everything that you're going to be using for that particular project. Your projects and clothing that you create yourself binds them to you. It's creating a stronger connection to them, which aids your fairy craft spell work. It makes it more personal, makes it more potent. It makes it more reliable too. And it's useful to you alone unless you're making an item that you're going to try to sell or you want to give to someone else. Then you would have to kind of separate yourself from it a little bit and infuse their connection to it. And again, that's when tag locks would become handy. Or just use the person's name over and over when you're doing your chant or your whatever. Instead of saying where you're binding the item to you, you're going to be binding it to them. So you can do it that way. So you might be asking, how do you start a fairycraft ritual using fiber magic? Well, it's pretty easy, actually. You just set up a workspace with all of your tools, your fabric, whatever you're going to use. You already have the idea of the project in mind, or maybe you have a sketch of it sitting there. So that's good. It gives you something to focus on. Then you're going to spray like a light mist of sage spray that you can purchase or make, or you could use, you could light a sage scented candle. You can light up a sage smudge stick, which also will, the little smoke will go over the items and infuse the items with the scent, but it's like a cleansing and cleans everything up, and it gets it open to using your magic to proceed to make that project. If you're into sun magic, perhaps you prefer to take all of your tools and your items out into the sunlight and let it sit out there for 10 or 15 minutes and just kind of let the sun, infuse its power. If you're into moon magic, then during a full moon night, take all your items out there and put them out on a table and let the moonlight absorb. It puts power into those items. Then you would create or find a spell that you want to use. So maybe you're making an item for good luck, and you'd want a good luck spell to chant over it every once in a while, as I said. So that would be something else you're going to need right away. And then once you have all your stuff together and everything has been cleansed, everything is ready to go, then you want to put yourself into a calm, meditative, mental state. If you want to put on some meditation kind of music to kind of help you relax, I often do my artwork to music. It helps you focus, helps you, get away from the phone and everything else so that you can focus on it and relax. And then you're going to say the spell occasionally over the items as you make it. And remember, the fairies like to make things. And they're supportive of creative people a lot of times. And so they are they are with you as you create. So allow them to inspire you, to motivate you, and you will create something that you love to use and wear for your spell work. Or if for someone else, then you definitely want to make sure that you are in the right state of mind, that you are in a good mood, because you don't want to send out bad vibes. You don't want to have negative associations on that item. You want them to enjoy it. You want them to like it. You want them to use it. And, if you're going to make something that you're selling, again, you want people to buy it. So you want to make sure that you're in a good state of mind, in a right state of mind when you're creating your item. So try to enjoy the process. And again, as you make this item, you are working a spell. You are creating magic. You are in the zone, and you are making something that can truly aid you or assist someone else in making a life a little better, a little happier. It's a process, but it's magic. So another form of fiber art magic is embroidery. And this is an embroidery I did quite a while ago of my fairy witch for Halloween. Let me get closer if I can. There we go. So this is, embroidery, of course, is thread. It's just really thin thread, almost like sewing thread, but maybe a little bit thicker than that. And then that way you're creating texture and picture through all those fancy colors of embroidery thread. So embroidery thread, again, these little skeins, and you can see they're a little bit thicker than sewing thread would be. But with this, it's like a magical tool. You can create such wonderful pictures and exciting projects, and even just doing sigils and symbols on something. Either you use a machine or do it by hand, which is what I do. Then you create these wonderful things with this thread. It's amazing. So apart from the obvious, taking thread and needle and wearing it, weaving it in and out of a fabric panel, creating a scene or a figure or an object, make it appear on it, can be called magic. And embroidery has been used for magical purposes and reasons for centuries. Certain motifs used during those times meant different things. So one could be for protection, another was for strength. But even the different stitches meant different things. And yes, there is a different stitch name that creates a different look. And there's a list for you to keep to your spell book. So here's a few things. I'm sorry I don't have the visuals for you, but you can look it up. Check out some embroidery videos on YouTube that specialize in embroidery, or check out a couple of books. They should have it if you're looking for types of stitches. But one is the chain, and the chain is for long-lasting protective spells and spells related to earth energy. The stem is for luck spells, prosperity, and health. The cross stitch, that's for spells that require a lot of visualization and you need a lot of repetition, so that's a good one if you're going to do a long spell or when you want to chant a lot over. Another stitch is the split, and this one is for spells related to breaking habits or for urgently needed spells for banishing perhaps. And then the satin stitch, that one I think is one that I do frequently. The satin stitch, as I started to say, is a lot for glamours and spells to obscure something like a cover-up or for protection. It's also used for covering large portions of the project that you want flat stitches for, and it covers up the edges of appliques. So that one is a traditional one that covers a lot of your essential project procedure, I guess is the word, or steps. So another example of another artwork that I've done with the embroidery. Granted, this is all a fabric panel, but this little fairy here is the embroidered section. Sorry, I've got a glare on the screen. I can't get rid of it. I'm trying. There. Sorry about the glare, but that is all by hand, just weaved in and out, so it's probably the satin stitches. But again, you can create a larger piece or a smaller piece, like this. You can create a whole environment. You could just do a figure. It's up to you. So embroidery, again, it takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of time just to do a little piece, at least for me. And, it's so rewarding when you get it done. And nobody has the idea how many stitches it took to create a little piece, like that little fairy I just showed you. That one took me quite a while. Now, the witch one, this one, obviously, is a bigger figure. This one took me several weeks to do. So it just depends on the size of work you're doing, but at the same time, I was weaving and making this spell as I did the work, and it creates this magical artwork that you could keep for yourself as inspiration or give to someone else. Again, it serves a purpose, and it's meditative, but it teaches you patience. Embroidery definitely teaches you to have some patience, because it's not something you can get done really quickly. Even doing a sigil might take you a while, but still, it's important because you're weaving your intention into that item or into that project, which makes it much more potent and much more important. And so again, it's magic. You are making magic while you're doing your embroidery. So keep that in mind the next time. And then the other form of fiber art that I want to talk about, of course, is the one that I use the most, the one I enjoy the most, and the one that I definitely promote the most, and that is knitting. And so if you've seen my blogs, you've seen other episodes, you know that I make these fairy dolls. I'm now making witch dolls as well. I also do poppets. I also knit poppets. And so this is one of my little fairy dolls. This one is Haiku the Elf. And I do make the fairy dolls to sell, although I have two of them, which one is a poppet. Two of them actually are poppets. One is a fairy, the other is for my Moon Magic poppet, and I have shown both of those in previous episodes. But little Haiku here, he's, to be adopted by someone else. So, completely hand knit. I don't use a knitting machine, and each one is unique, each one is different. Each one of my witch dolls will be different. I'm just starting that line, so those are slowly going to be available. But knitting is, the dolls are meant for a purpose. I design them and I figure out, okay, how I want it to look, because each one is different. I don't do the same design on each. And I created the pattern, so that makes it even more personal to me. I created the doll pattern, and I use it every time. And then I just tweak it for each doll to make them each stand out and more unique. So, but I'm making these dolls to sell, but I still make them with the purpose that I want someone to enjoy them, to really like them, who's going to take care of them, and, really enjoy every little detail, from his little bow and arrow to his little fringe leggings to the little booties. He's got his little hat with the acorns, and all the little stringy hair. Each piece, each item is important to me. So I do focus a lot on making the dolls with that purpose that someone else is going to enjoy them and want them. But I also knit other projects. I knit hats and scarves, again, usually for other people to sell, although I do keep some of it for myself. But the idea is for warmth and for comfort and for shielding from protection from, the winter elements, that sort of thing. Others would be like my little fairy herb bags. You knit these little guys and wear them to collect, things out on a nature walk. I might make these into a spell bag. I also do the little poppet dolls, as I mentioned. Again, that is definitely for magical purposes, so I use them and I try to sell them. Again, so you want to make sure that I'm infusing them with the right spirit, the right power. So I was getting off on a tangent here, so let me go back. So knitting is using yarn and long or short needles that weave in and out, creating stitches which create the fabric, which then becomes your project. So again, fairy dolls wearing accessories, bags, supplies. That's what I make. That's what I try to sell and use. So knitting is one of the oldest fiber arts still used. Samples of knitting were found in ancient Egyptian tombs. As an example, they found it in Greece and Rome. Ancient civilizations used knitting. Old England used knitting, and they still do. So it was once only for the rich to have, and then only refined people were taught to do knit work. Then later it became a way for the poor of, let's say England, to help the country's economy and make themselves some money to live from day to day. Current times, yes, I still knit stuff, as I said, to try to sell, to pay my bills and keep us alive, but I also make them for the projects. I also make them to enjoy them. And many people do too. So it's a form of art. It's still a way to earn money, as I said, and still made for practical uses as well. But now I see that knitting is a form of meditational art. It helps you connect to the fairies. It helps you zone out. It helps you zone out for a little bit and get away from the phone. I often knit in front of the TV, just trying to relax. Sometimes that's not the greatest if I'm going to do something which I really need to focus my intention and the spell work on. Then obviously I can't be distracted by what I'm watching or hearing. I need to be separate from that. I need to knit alone. I need to knit just listening to some music that's relaxing. You set your intention on the yarn and the tools before going to work, as we talked about with the other forms of art. And then you can either write a spell or use a spell, and then that's what you're going to say over the project as you work it. It infuses the stitches, it infuses everything you're using, and that creates more potency, more reliability with the spell work, and it definitely makes it connected to you. Again, if it's something you're going to give away or sell, then you want to separate yourself a little bit from that and cleanse it up when you're done, and really, say something like, say your spell, but instead of saying me or your own name, you're going to use the other person's name. Or if it's something you're going to sell so you have no idea who is going to purchase it, then you'll say whoever purchases and uses this item, and then continue the spell. So that's a way to infuse it, as well as dedicating it to whoever might be going to receive that item. You will also be working a spell as you create whatever project it is you're making. So take the time to really learn to knit. If you've never knit before, and this works for crochet as well. If you want to be a crocheter or a knitter, please learn how to do it. Maybe you've never learned, take a class. Watch a YouTube video, but take a class if you can. Maybe you used to knit or crochet and you've gotten away from it. Find a project that kind of gets you excited, or think about something that, I really do want a spell bag for this. Well, instead of going out and buying one, knit one. If you remember how to knit or crochet, don't be afraid to pick it up and start over again and do it again. Get yourself, excited about it and really enjoy it. And maybe you used to do it and you only do it now and then, or maybe you still got projects sitting there staring at you. Well, start something new, put something back on the needles and really enjoy it. And then you'll find that you want to go back to your old projects and finish them. And you might make them into something magical too. Of course, any project you do is going to be magic. You are creating the spell on whatever project you're working on. That's not a problem. You are creating, and so you are making that magic, regardless of the project, regardless of how long it's been sitting in your knitting bag. Pick it up again. And really, if you infuse it with the intention and the spell that you want to use, you can turn anything into a magical working, a magical project. It could be a blanket, an afghan, it could be a shawl, it could be a hat, it could be a little baby booties. You get it done, but put your intention on it. Cleanse it up, put your intention on it, and really make it a magical piece. You'll enjoy doing it. You're creating a spell, and you could be creating something that's really going to bring some happiness, some warmth, and some protection to either yourself or someone that you care about, even your own pet. You might be knitting a sweater for your cat or your dog, or a blanket for them for their bed. You are creating something. You are making the magic. And the fairies will be drawn to you. They're going to want to see what you're doing. They're going to be fascinated. They might actually inspire you. As I said, they may give you an idea and say, hey, this, you like this? Great. But how about doing it this way? Or how about adding this or tweaking it here? And you're going to go, hey, that's a really good idea. And you're thinking, oh, I thought of that. They might have inspired you, but they're going to let you think you thought of it. Either way, you were going to be helped, and you are making magic, and you are creating that intention. So by doing your fiber magic work, you are doing the spell that the fairies can help you with, that they can inspire you with, that connects you to them, connects to the nature, and gives you some meditative time as you create a project. Whether you use it or someone else is going to use it, it's going to be important, and it's important for you to enjoy the process and to remember to make your magic every day, every time you play with fiber art. So I hope that this inspires you and motivates you and gets you back to working on a project or learning something new, or and just looking at your projects from now on in a brand new way. And I hope that it really does help you create your magic today and improve your fairy day. That's definitely something important. So I thank you so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. I hope again that it's inspiring and give you a new perspective on some of your magical work if you hadn't thought of it already. And again, working with fiber art is so much fun. It's inspiring, and it's a great time to bond with your children. It's a wonderful skill to pass on to your children. Let's not lose these techniques and these skills which have been used for centuries. Let's crochet and let's knit. Let's do all these fiber art pieces along with other art forms as well. But today we're focusing on fiber art. So again, get out there and knit, crochet, join a group, go to a Buy some new yarn. Just buying a new skein of yarn can be inspiring, can get you turned on to trying something different, or get you turned because you're looking at the color and the fabric and going, or the feel of it, and you go, my gosh, that would be a great hat, or that would be fantastic as a baby's hat, or a little baby sweater, or oh, I'd love to wrap up a shawl in this, and it really gets your juices going, just like for a writer, they say that changing the writing paper, or buying a new pen, that maybe it's a fancy pen you've never had before, it helps you get to work, So again, buy some new needles, or buy a new skein of yarn that really captures your attention, and that too is part of the process of creating a spell and creating magic. Buying the tools, buying the embroidery thread, buying your items you're going to use, that is part of the spell as well. So from that process to the point where you actually finish it, you are creating magic. So embrace it and be inspired by it and enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching this. If you'd like to donate to us to help us keep going and keep us inspired, then please donate to either our PayPal link, which is on the channel here in blue under the description name, or you can donate or purchase from our shop at our Ko-fi.com, which I just showed you the little poster. That is also on the channel, and it will be in the description box. Just click on that link and you can become a monthly member, you can be a one-time donator, or you can purchase something. And either way, I thank you so much. You will keep me inspired, and you're going to help me and my family keep going. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Please subscribe if you haven't. Have a very good day. We'll see you in the next one.